Okay, so I am Wendy Krause, and I'm an associate professor in textile engineering and polymer and color chemistry now. And I did my undergraduate work at MIT, and my in chemistry, and my PhD at Penn State, and I worked in the material science and engineering department, but my degree was actually in chemistry.
Okay.
But when I was a sophomore, junior in college is when I got interested in polymers, and from that point on, my focus was on polymers. That's where I took my electives, and that's what I went to graduate school for.
Okay.
And if you're interested in polymers, you can be in chemistry, material science and engineering, textile engineering, polymer and color chemistry, chemical engineering, you know, whatever oddball thing at whatever university you're at. So it's I've been interested. You know, you're at this doing interdisciplinary work for a long time. So different.
So you already said your specific field of science, but was there anything that made you decide on your career choice besides those elective classes you mentioned?
I heard a lecture by Professor Bob Langer at MIT, and he is in the National Academy of Science, Engineering, and Medicine, and I think he's the only living person that is in all three.
Okay.
He's just amazing. And he was co-teaching a class I was taking, and he gave a lecture on controlled drug release, and he founded the field. He created the first controlled drug release system. And it was all polymer based. It was based on polymers degrading and in a controlled way and releasing a drug as they degraded. And I had been doing undergraduate research in different areas of chemistry and sort of being like, well, I don't want to do that in graduate school. Well, I don't want to do that in graduate school. Because I had liked a lot of things in the classroom, but then some of the research and stuff, I just was like, I don't want to do this. I don't ever want to work on air-sensitive compounds again.
Right.
I knew that after a semester of undergraduate research. You know? So I heard that lecture, and I was like, that's the coolest thing I've heard in a long time. And I had taken and liked thermodynamics, and it just sort of like the polymer physics and the polymer chemistry all sort of fit together into what I had liked out of my other classes. And so once I took that first class, I was like, yeah, I think this is what I want to do.
Okay, was his lecture what made you decide to do graduate work and pursue a higher degree, or was it something else?
No. Well, when I was in high school, I was like, you know, young and cocky and like, I'm going to be a professor. And so when I went into chemistry and not into engineering, I had pretty much decided I would go to graduate school. Now, over the course of my time and doing graduate school, I was like, get me out of here. I want a real job outside of the university system and that kind of thing. So my first job was with a small company. And it only took a few years to be like, oh yeah, I kind of miss academia. I want to go back. But I think I had always sort of had it in my head as a chemistry major, if you didn't want to be a technician, you needed to get an advanced degree. So I had, you know, sort of always thought about that.
Okay. One example from our text for this course was about two females, Evelyn Fox Keller and Evelyn Hammonds, who were given fewer chances in graduate school due to their gender and race. Have you ever experienced this?
I don't think in graduate school or undergraduate. I don't think in school.
Okay.
It would have, if there was anything, it would have been, you know, sort of self-imposed, not an external thing. But I have a story for you for the next question.
Okay. So have you ever experienced this in the workforce?
So I was hired, there was 4 of us hired all at the same time, and I was the only woman, and I made $1,000 less than the 3 men.
Okay.
And when I found that out, I was pretty upset, because it's like, you know, it's not a lot of money when you're talking about a salary, but it was
Right.
certainly enough to make me really, really angry.
You wanted to know
And
why.
feel very disrespected.
Right.
And it didn't take long after that to start looking for another job.
Okay.
But yeah, you know, and we the four of us came in and we ended up becoming very good friends. And because I mean, most of the time you wouldn't talk to your colleagues about salary, but when we started talking about it, it was like, what do you mean? You know?
You realized it.
Yeah.
So another thing from our text from this course was that previous research identified the number of advanced math and science courses taken in high school as the strongest direct influence on a choice of a quantitative undergraduate major. Do you agree with this statement, or do you think it's false?
I would think it's true. It didn't have an impact on me, per se, because I grew up in a very small town in Maine, and 9 towns got together to go to one high school, and we graduated under 200 people. So there just weren't a lot of options.
Right.
There was, you know, college track and non-college track kind of deal. They were just starting AP classes when I was there, and I did take AP calculus, but I think if you have the choice, and you know, then it would be an influence. I think that a lot of it comes from your parents. You know, I just was. My dad loved math, and just I was the only kid, so it was like I was all things to both parents, and it didn't matter if you were a girl or a boy or whatever. It was like, you're gonna, you know, do you want to go camping? You gonna go fish? We're gonna go skiing? You know, whatever it was, you did it, and I was a little bit of a tomboy, and I think sports for me probably had more of an impact because I was always trying to keep up with the guys, and so it wasn't any different when I was in the classroom. I was trying to beat the boys.
Okay. Did you have a role model during your undergraduate or graduate work, and were they female?
I had... So, as an undergraduate, I saw the female faculty in the chemistry department. I had classes from 2 of them, and one of them I loved her class and that kind of thing, but it was bigger, so I didn't really know her, and it also was my personality not to reach. I was quiet. But they were sort of almost a negative role model because I saw how hard they worked, and they weren't married, and they didn't have a family, and I was like, I don't know that I want to do that. I didn't want to be that committed. It's pretty funny because I'm not married and don't have a family. But I also am not 24/7 in the lab. The one professor was like, you could go on campus anytime and she would be there. I'm not that way, but I did undergraduate research with 2 different male professors, and one of them I stayed in contact with, and he's he was really helpful to me, and I think that I've always sort of convenient being in the sciences and engineering, coming from playing sports and that kind of thing. I sort of was used to male coaches, and so it was sort of natural to have male mentors.
Okay. So do you have any advice for females that might be uncertain about pursuing a degree in science, technology, engineering, or mathematics?
Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. No, I mean, and that's sort of tongue-in-cheek, but it's also, you should, no matter what you're interested in studying, the more math and science you take, the better off you'll be, even if you're going to be an English major, because if you understand those fundamentals, you can write about a bigger, broader scope of topics and that kind of thing. And, yeah, so science and math and engineering, all the STEM stuff, it's just, it's really can help make you a better citizen, better, more well-rounded, so.
Okay. Did you ever participate in any activities in high school or college that promoted women to go into a STEM field of study?
No. I can't think of any specific programs. I was always interested in STEM, so it wasn't, but yeah, I can't think of anything. I'm involved with stuff now on the other side,
right?
Trying to.
And what do they do to?
So I'm the College of Textiles rep for the Women in Science and Engineering program here at NC State, which is trying to help promote retention of girls in STEM once they come to college. And I haven't done as much, sort of outreach for younger children, or, younger girls as I would like, but I think about it a lot.
So, okay. Did a particular class or teacher spark your interest in a STEM field?
Not that I can think of. I think, my dad was always really interested in math and science, and I think I, just sort of took off after that.
Okay. Were you ever discouraged during your schooling and put down due to your gender, and was it by teachers or other peers? I wasn't aware of it, if it happened, but a good friend of mine, we were trying to get into the calculus track, which meant that you had to take algebra early. You had to take advanced math in 8th grade as opposed to 9th grade or 7th grade, or however it worked. You had to get in that track early, and they said to her, "Oh, you're so pretty, you don't want to work that hard." And my mother was like horrified and went and told her mother that they had said that, when she and I were there. And she didn't go into that class and then doubled up in math so she could end up in calculus. So it had a direct impact on her. But yeah, my mom would not have stood for that. So if they did try and say that, my mom kept it away from me. Okay. So last question. During your schooling, were your classes dominated by males?
Yeah. I mean, as far as like numbers and that kind of thing, yeah. As an undergrad, it was, I think we were just over a third women at the university. Which, I don't know, it wasn't ever something that I thought about.
Right.
My study groups were usually other girls, and friends and stuff like that, and it just never really occurred to me. And in high school, like the going into the math early, it was probably at least 2 to 1 guys to girls. But it's a small town, and you knew everybody. It just didn't really matter. Didn't occur to me. I also played on the boys' soccer team, so it wasn't something that occurred to me as being strange.
Okay. So, all right. Well, that's it.